Today we are going to discuss about the tissues of the plants. As we know, the individual cell is having ability to divide into the two cells. So by this way, dividing single cell into the two cells, by this way we are increasing the number. As if we will talk about the amoeba, this is the unicellular cell, or if we will compare this with the size of the elephant, they are multicellular organism, and elephant is composed of billions of cells. So there are several types of cells which are seen in the plants as well as in the animals. So these different types of cells are having different structural role in the plant as well as in animals, and different functional role in case of both plants as well as the animals. If we will talk about the plant, the plant tissue, this plant tissue is mainly divided into two groups. First is the meristematic tissues, and second one is the permanent tissues. So the meristematic tissues, these are active tissues or actively dividing cells. They are having some characteristics like the meristematic cells are small in size, they are thin walled. Even it has been observed these when we observe these meristematic cells under the microscope, they are having prominently large nucleus along with the rich in their cytoplasm. These cells doesn't have the intercellular space between them, and these are these meristematic cells are responsible for the growth of the plants. If we will talk about the permanent tissue, so permanent tissue obviously will be having the different shape, size. When they attain their maturity, they are having their specific functions. Permanent tissue doesn't have ability to divide. Sometimes when plant is in need of conversion of the permanent tissue into the meristematic tissue, that time convergence takes place. If we will talk about the permanent tissue, again, these are not longer or may not be smaller. They may be sometimes having thin wall or as well as the thick cell wall. Cytoplasm is much less, nucleus is also small. These cells are not dividing cells. If we will give the differentiation between the meristematic and the permanent tissue, for meristematic tissues we can have like following points. First, the meristematic cells are small, usually isodiametric in size. They are having thin cell wall without in, the intercellular space between the cells. They are having large nucleus and rich in their cytoplasm. The meristematic cells are having ability to divide, due to which they are also called as the cells which are responsible for the growth in case of plants. They don't attain definite form or size. They are always living cells. Meristematic cells are always living cells. And from these meristematic cells, we are able to get the permanent tissues. So, if we will talk about the permanent tissues, they are no longer isodiametric in shape. Sometimes they may be thick or thin walled cell wall. Cytoplasm is not present that much, and relatively to meristematic cells, the nucleus present in the permanent tissue are smaller. These permanent tissue doesn't have ability to divide, that is, they have lost the power of division. They are having definite form and size as they have to perform specific functions. The permanent tissue may be living or dead, and these permanent tissue are derived from the meristematic tissues. As we can see in the diagram, The meristematic cells, which are at the present of the shoot tip, is called as apical meristem, and within in the stem we are having another type of meristem that is called as the intercalary meristem. This intercalary meristem are mostly present at the this intercalary meristem are mostly present at the base of the leaves, or it is present also in between the internodes. This intercalary meristem is mostly found in the monocots, which help in their rapid growth. So, apical shoot tip meristem or shoot apical meristem, that is the SAM, this is always present at the tip of the shoot. And the SAM shoot apical meristem is protected by the leaf primordia, which protect this apical meristem from the environment. So another type of meristem is there, that is the lateral meristem. This lateral meristem are present at the sides of the stem and root. And I said the apical meristem, this is present at the, as you can see in the diagram, at the tip of the shoot apical meristem, and the tip of the root, that is called as root apical meristem, RAM. RAM stands for root apical meristem, which is the meristem cells which are present in the roots, and SAM is the apical meristem which is present at the shoot apical meristem. Below this root apical meristem, there are some cells which protect this root apical meristem. The cells are collectively called as the root cap. As we can see that the permanent tissue, the permanent tissue is made up of simple types of cells or the complex types of cells. If again further we divide this simple permanent tissue, they can be divided into three different categories. First is the parenchyma cells. As you can see, how division is taking place in case of permanent tissues. Second is the chlorenchyma cells, and third is the sclerenchyma cells. All these types of cells come under the simple permanent tissue. The next is the complex permanent tissue. This complex permanent tissue is further divided into two main parts. First is the xylem and second is the phloem. If we will talk about the permanent tissue now, there are three different types of permanent tissue present in the plant cells. First, if we will talk about their place or origin, we divide permanent tissue into three categories. First is the dermal tissue, second is the vascular tissue, third is the ground or the fundamental tissue. If we will classify our permanent tissue as per their place or the origin, they are having three types. First is dermal tissue, second is vascular tissue, and third is the ground or the fundamental tissue. Again, if we classify permanent tissue as per their kind, based on the kind of the cells consisting of the permanent tissue, again they are of two types, simple tissue and the complex tissue. Mostly we discuss plant cells as per their place or the origin. So first we are having dermal tissue. This dermal tissue, as the name indicates, dermis means outer part, provides the covering to the plant cells. These dermal tissue can be either epidermis or peridermis. These can be either epidermis or the peridermis. As we all know, the epidermis in case of plant forms the outermost layer of the primary plant body. These are specialized cells, or we can say they guard our cells, and these are also present in the root hairs. If we will see the epidermis present in case of desert plants, These epidermis are able to secrete some sticky substance, wax-like structure, so there is a waxy layer on the epidermis of the plants which are present in the desert area. This waxy layer is called as the cuticle. This cuticle plays an important role as it minimizes the water loss during the photosynthesis. During the photosynthesis by evaporation process, it also allows, or it sorry, it doesn't allow, or it inhibits the entry of pathogen into the plant cells. As if we talk about the epidermis, as in case of leaves, this epidermis is having some pores which facilitate aeration, like this pore where there is the gaseous exchange between the plant and the environment. These pores are called as stomata. These stomata is guarded by the two kidney-shaped gourd cells in case of dicots. So when there is opening of closed stomata, that time there is the release of there is the entry of the carbon dioxide from the environment into the plant. Then with the help of sunlight and with the presence of the carbon dioxide, the plants are able to synthesize their food. That is the photosynthesis process. So mostly the epidermis cell, the outer layer cell is like single cell structure. So this was about the epidermis. If we will now shift to the peridermis, peridermis is also the protective tissue. It covers sometimes they are present above the epidermis. If we will talk about the peridermis, it includes cork or cork cambium or cork parenchyma cells. It helps the aeration between the internal tissue, like we are have seen many lenticels or spongy area present on the cork cells. These cork cells are mostly the dead cells. They are present on the walls, and these, due to the presence of the organic substance, they appear thick, and the organic substance which are present there are called as suberin. This suberin is actually the fatty substance which doesn't allow water to come inside the plants, and we can say that they are impermeable to water as well as the gases. As we have seen, the many like stoppers of the bottle or the floats or cork boards are made up of this cork. Now we will talk about the ground tissue system. This ground tissue system are having, or they are composed, or they are having three different types. This ground tissue system is present on the whole plant body. They form the bulk part of the plant. So these tissue are the parenchyma, chlorenchyma, and the sclerenchyma cells. These are parenchyma, chlorenchyma, and the sclerenchyma cells. So now the parenchyma cells. It's a Greek word which means the to pour in besides. To pour in besides. If we will talk about the shape of the parenchyma cells, they are usually polyhedral in shape. Their cell wall is thin. They are they are living even at the maturity level. So we can see these parenchyma cells in cortex region, pith rays in xylem and phloem. When if we will talk about the parenchyma which is present in the leaves, like parenchyma plus the chlorophyll, all called as chlorenchyma cells. And there is another type of cells, these are called as parenchyma cells. These parenchyma cells are found in the aquatic plants. As in the parenchyma cells, there is a large intercellular space. Due to this space, due to this emptiness in the tissues, these plants or these leaves are able to float onto the water. Means due to the presence of the parenchyma cells, the leaves are able to float on the water as they are having large intercellular space which forms the air cavities inside these ground tissue system. If we can talk about now the what are the major functions which these parenchyma cells do. First, they are mostly the living cells. They are able to carry out the major metabolisms which are occurring in the plant, like the major metabolism we are having respiration and the photosynthesis. So we can say that the parenchyma cells are involved in the respiration and the photosynthesis process. They are also involved in the parenchyma. They are also involved in the food assimilation and storage of food. Like if we talk about these parenchyma cells are able to store starch which is present in the plants, oil, water, and also the salts which plant is taken or the minerals taken from the soil. So parenchyma cells store these things also. Even they help in the transportation of various materials in plants, like transportation of materials like water, dissolved minerals, food. So we can say that this parenchyma plays a supporting system to the xylem and phloem. Even if, as I said, they are the living cells, if there is any wound on these parenchyma cells, but due to their living nature, these cells are able to heal or regenerate its wound, or they are having able to replicate their cells to cover up this wound. So the second is the chlorenchyma cells. It's also the Greek word which means glue. It's also the Greek word which means glue. They are oval or circular in size. Even it has been observed that there are some cells which are polygonal in shape. As you can see in the diagram, they are more elongated than the parenchyma cells. Even their cell wall is unevenly thick. It's not due to the deposition of the lignin, means they are non-lignified cells. There is no lignin deposition. Like parenchyma cells, these chlorenchyma cells are also living cells. These are mostly present below the epidermis. These are mostly present below the epidermis. So we can say in like they act as a supporting system in the plants, or they are having flexibility which play important role along with the xylem and the phloem in case of plants. The third type of cell is the sclerenchyma cells. It's also again a Greek word. The sclero means hard. So these are the specialized cells which are harder in nature, that is, they are having thick cell wall. So if they are having thick cell wall, it means they are able to provide the mechanical support to the plants. These cells are closely packed, so there is no intercellular space between the cells. These are mostly the dead cells. So if they are dead, they lack protoplast at their maturity. They are able to develop into any part or the primary or the secondary body part of the plants. Their cell wall is lignified, that is, there is a deposition of lignin on their cell wall, due to which they provide the mechanical support, and it means that they can withstand with the various strains. Now the third is the last one is the vascular system, vascular tissue system. So vascular tissue system includes our xylem and phloem. So if we will talk about the xylem, this xylem consists of many different types of cells, like they are having parenchyma cells, vessels are there, fibers and tracheids are there. So if we'll talk about the xylem vessels, as the name indicates, means it's a vessel-like structure. The cells are in the chain continuously with the one another. There is no organelle present as they are the dead cells except the xylem xylem parenchyma cells. They are dead cells and they are having thick deposition of lignin. That is, their cell wall is having lignin deposition. These xylem parenchyma or there is a chain of the cells one above the another, so they form the continuous tube-like structure. As you can see in the diagram, they form the continuous tube-like structure without any break. Without any break. If there is any collapse or any pressure due to which there is a gap producing in it, these gaps are filled by the lignin deposition and these gaps are called as pits, P-I-T-S. These pits allow the lateral movement of water and mineral in case of plants. So now the last part is our phloem. Phloem is responsible for transportation of organic substance from its manufacturing site to the whole plant, like from the leaves to the other parts of the body in the form of the sucrose. They again are transferred through the tunnel-like structure. So if we'll talk about the phloem, they consist of parenchyma cells, fibers, sieve cells, or we can call these as sieve tubes, and the most important cell, that is the companion cells. Again, I will repeat. The phloem is made up of parenchyma cells, fibers, sieve cells or sieve tubes, and the companion cells. First, the phloem sieve tube elements. As the name indicates, it includes a tube, which means the cells are the elongated cells which form a tube-like structure. And these, as you can see in the diagram, the sieve tubes are having pores due to which there is the longitudinal flow of material in the form of sucrose, or we can say polysaccharide. And that is also called as callose if there is a deposition of carbohydrate in sieve tubes. They are having these sieve tubes are having few organelle, like sometimes there is a presence of plastids, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and the mitochondria, but they lack nucleus. If I will again say, if there is the damage in the sieve tubes, then there is no movement of carbohydrates through them, so this carbohydrate gets deposited into them only. That deposition of carbohydrate into the sieve tubes are called as callose, callose, callose. So this callose formation seals and block these sieve tubes to prevent the loss of material through them. The next is the companion cells. They are found next to the sieve tubes. They are having nucleus, and these companion cells are having large nucleus, even we can say, with dense cytoplasm. There is a presence of mitochondria as well as the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So mitochondria as well as the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So we can say that it means if mitochondria is there, then they are having a role in the respiration, and thus there will be the release of the energy. As we can see, if there is a respiration process, so there is a release of the energy. It means they are, in short, we can say, if respiration processes are occurring there, then they are metabolically active cells. But it has been seen in case of gymnosperms, these companion cells are absent. We can say companion cells are absent in case of gymnosperms. If we will talk about the phloem fiber, so this phloem fiber provides the mechanical support to the plant. They are mostly the dead cells due to the thick deposition of lignin on them. This is how the tissue in the plants are classified and their structure and the role.